Welcome back, everybody. We're starting our new episode, and Jeremiah is super engaged, super present.
I'm on my way.
He's on his way. He's 5 minutes out.
I'm back.
Okay, so this week,
In the spirit of love,
movie of the week is
arguably the best rom-com ever. Probably, definitely in my top three, and something I watch, I'd say, once a month, is Notting Hill.
I watch once a month. Notting Hill is
I probably watch it once a month.
It's a masterpiece.
I love it.
Favorite line?
Favorite line is, I'm just a girl standing in front of a boy asking him to love her. If you don't feel that, man,
Great one.
I don't know if love's for you.
I think my favorite line is, I'm from Horse and Hound. Is there
I'm
any
from Horse
horses
and
in this
Hound.
movie? He goes, in space? And he's just
The movie
like,
takes place on a ship in space.
no horses.
That's such a good movie, man. What is the song of the week?
Song of the week is something I sang a lot when it came out. I played it on repeat. I actually played it on repeat again, going through my breakup, and it's Maybe It's Time from the Star Is Born soundtrack. And Bradley Cooper sings it. It's the Maybe It's Time to Let the Old Ways Die.
It's a great song.
It is so good.
It is.
It kind of goes in with the theme of what we're kind of talking about today.
What are your 5 stars of this week?
My 5-star this week is a pair of boots. I have not been able to stop wearing my Tacovas. I think they're made out of Austin, Texas, but they're the comfiest. I hate like cowboy boots because they're too high.
Yeah, they're high.
I like the medium height cowboy boot, and the Tacovas are like the comfiest. Go check them out. They're super comfy, and they look great. So
Okay.
my suede light tan
I love a good pair of cowboy boots.
Tacovas. They're fantastic.
I love a good chic cowboy boot.
Yeah, they're chic.
Especially with a dress suit. That's the move.
A suit with cowboy boots looks fantastic.
But you need the bottom of your suit to flare a little bit. Not
yeah,
quite
you
bell
can't do
bottomy,
the
but
tight ones.
Nah, it doesn't work. It looks a little goofy. So you need to have that
Straight
straight,
leg,
slight flare at the end.
little bell bottom.
Not quite. It's like in between the bell bottom.
They're nice though.
That's the move.
I think I might do a suit with boots next time.
Yeah, just hit me up. I got you.
What are you giving 5 stars to?
Italy grocery store. If you've never been, it's a magical place. I'll
He
spend
goes
hours.
there more than anyone I've ever met.
It's definitely the most expensive grocery store in the
More than
fucking
anyone.
world. Yes.
Really?
Yeah. I'll go there and not even buy anything because it transports me to a whole different.
Italy. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like I'm in Italy. There's 100 million olive oils in there. I love olive oil.
You're an olive oil fiend. He
I
takes
am.
shots of olive oil.
I do take shots of olive oil every morning,
So
every
interesting.
night, like gulps of it. It's pretty wild, actually. And they have every type of cheese, every noodle, wines from all over Italy. It's like Italy packaged up in a grocery store, and it's so cool. Like
it is pretty good.
espresso, cappuccino.
You brought this up earlier. It's so funny, and I don't think anyone caught it. You're like, that's the worst damn coffee I've ever had. Do you have that experience everywhere that you go? I feel like you're
The worst of something or the best of something?
You just are very judgmental when it comes to coffee.
Oh, yeah. I
Like,
am very judgmental when it comes to
Really
coffee.
bad too. Like, no, I'm not gonna say bad, but you're very meticulous.
I won't
with
stand
coffee.
for it.
Like I can have a decent coffee and be like, it did its job. I woke up, I have energy. But you literally will buy a coffee and not drink it.
Yeah, it's true. Well, I'll drink a sip, and if I'm immediately like getting mid vibes from it,
Just done.
I'll probably toss it.
I've never
And
been that way.
It's snobby, I know, but I'm a coffee snob, and I'm completely okay with it. There's some things I'm just not willing to compromise on, and coffee's one of them.
I know a lot of people that love coffee, they just can't drink it because it gives them anxiety. And that's like 8
true.
different people. I know, like, I love coffee, but I get it and I get super anxious.
Isn't that caffeine?
You know what I've wondered about that is, does caffeine cause anxiety or uncover anxiety?
That's the question. Does caffeine cause anxiety or does it uncover anxiety? Like amplify something that you're inhibiting?
No one's going to answer.
I'm not a
I don't know.
doctor.
I mean, it definitely is going to speed up your heart rate, which physiologically is similar to what one might feel if they're anxious or panicking.
I like that you answered it that way because the experience of anxiety is different for everyone. This happens so often where someone's like, I have anxiety. And it's like, what does that mean? Because actually, like saying I have anxiety means nothing because what is going on? Well, It's the thoughts that are racing. Okay. It's the heart that's racing. It's the discomfort in the stomach. It's the lack of hunger. It's the deep sense of, I'm not going to keep going, but it's different.
Okay, and on that note, our two guests are AZA and Ahmed. They are psychiatrists, they are scientists, they are researchers, and they both did their residency at Yale University. These are two of the most fascinating people I know. They carry a lot of knowledge, and we're super grateful to have them on today to talk about the evolution of love and breakups and how to get through them. Thank you guys so much. We're super stoked to have both of you together. Well, it's funny that we're having both of you guys on here, and kind of the circle of, I don't know, the nucleus of how we all really started talking, for people that don't know, is Jeremiah, myself, went through fairly intense breakups. And Ahmed, it was kind of like a full circle for me personally, because Ahmed was the person that I called, and you called as well, just to get advice, to kind of, get counsel from, as far as going through my pretty, at the time, tumultuous breakup. It was really, really hard. Cut to now, you're going through a pretty difficult one, and now I'm just regurgitating what you said to me. It sounds like wisdom, but that kind of got us all talking, and I'm super excited to dive into it, because I think you were very monumental for me being able to get through it and open my eyes to things that I wasn't aware of before, and it really helped me and honestly change the direction of my life.
It's perfect that you frame, or you start off with that, because these are things that AZA and I are very interested in. It's like, how do we be there for each other's emotions, and then not just be there for, but then receive as well. And that process between more than two people, more than three people, I think is something that we're really interested in generally. And like, you just described that. It's like this passing, it's almost like this passing of emotions between people. It like helps. I don't want to use the word clean, because emotions just are emotions, but there's something there where it's like they're being rinsed through a filter of understanding as they pass between each other. I like that process.
That cleansing and that filtering for me was like talking to you, like, oh, I'm human. Like, I'm not perfect. I'm learning as I go. And hearing one of your friends and someone who's like really smart, like you're a doctor, you're like, no, this is part of being a human. You're going to make mistakes, learn to not make those again. And I just never really evaluated them before. So I didn't even realize there was something to fix, because I never wanted to, you know what I mean? I never wanted to fix them. There was nothing to fix. It was the ex's fault. It was the blah, blah, blah. And
I think you just said it was a mistake, though. And I think that's one of the biggest things that is like a cool thing to realize, is like, it's not a mistake.
It's hard to feel that, though. It's hard to conceptualize that in my brain when I do feel bad because I screwed up. I'm the cause of it, something that felt good ending. So it's hard for it to feel like not a mistake.
Do you both feel like you're better equipped to help people more than help yourselves?
I think it depends on the situation. It's like I've been through a divorce, I'm remarried. So it's like whatever tools or skills I had wasn't sufficient to prevent my divorce. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even though we did couples therapy and things like that, in certain relationships, it really doesn't matter what tools or skills you have if you all can't kind of share enough of a view of reality that you have something to like commonly work together with.
Or even the desire to work together with.
Yeah.
And there's also something to be said for when the stakes are higher. There's something to be said for when you find yourself in a dynamic that leads to a regression to another state, or another state from the past coming forward. We all have stories of, whoa, I was not who I am in that scenario, or I've lost myself. And you don't realize it until afterwards. So that's the different aspect too, when it's just you and someone else versus when you're watching on the outside. And there's a big difference there as well.
I always find it such a phenomenon. I mean, just roughly speaking, you love somebody, you married somebody, you end up getting divorced. How we go from like, and it's also a song, we literally go from strangers to friends to lovers and back to strangers again. Mm-hmm. And I always find it, sometimes I reflect on people I've loved in my life, like past relationships, in that moment, like the love for me was so genuine. I genuinely love this person. And the idea that I don't know them anymore is such a, I don't want to say depressing, but it's like, it's a very, it's kind of sad way to reflect on a past love. There's people who I genuinely loved and I don't know them anymore. And they're just like a part of my past. Just like it's such a unique thing that happens to everybody.
Yeah.
And we just move on and we fall in love with someone else and like we just keep going forward.
Yeah, and at one point you were so close, best friends.
Yeah.
And now you don't know anything about them.
I'm curious about that. Like, I don't know them anymore, or they were a part of me. Is that how you find it? It's like you're moving here and they're here, or is it actually like the jarring thing is that they're actually here with you? It's not a past thing, but they're still over here as well.
Wait, what do you mean?
Because you're saying, man, this person was a part of me before. This person I knew before. Now they are not a part of me. Now I don't know them. Are those two necessarily true? And like maybe that's what makes it hard.
Is that I still carry them with me?
In some way.
I do.
And there's like a discordance between those two things as well. Like it's way easier in a sense to like grieve someone who is no longer bodily here. It's different to like grieve a part of yourself that still is bodily here.
Yeah, it's harder because they could be with you, but they're not. They're not dead. They're still there, and the choice of them not being around you is like, it's almost easier if they died. It's like, oh, can't be with them. Especially when you're not the one that chose to like have a breakup. I feel like it's.
I think for someone you generally love, you'll probably always carry something with you from them. You know, whether it's like consciously, subconsciously, whether you want to admit it or not. I think there's been a few special women in my life that are no longer in my life anymore that I'll carry something from them. It could be a lesson.
Yeah.
You know, certainly for me, I think in cases of some of my past relationships not working out, like being able to learn from that and grow from that, I think in a way I am carrying them with me and through that, maybe medium, you know?
Okay, so where's that point though? Like you said you've experienced that numerous times. I've experienced it numerous times. And I've had 3 pretty serious girlfriends. The last one was the only one that made me to like change up my ways. Right? So at what
was the difference for you?
Yeah, what's the tipping point of it goes bad and then you go back, you resort to the same behaviors you've had and the habits you've had. But then with this one, it like rocked me enough to where I was like, whoa, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to start like doing therapy. I'm going to evaluate what happened because I never really evaluated breakups before. It's like, oh, we broke up. That sucks. On to the next, back on to Raya.
Yeah.
See how it goes.
Well, what you just described there is that you, like, were you actually vulnerable as you were there? And you just said, I was rocked, so I changed. Are those the 2 conditions?
I don't know. What do you mean?
You had to be vulnerable to a certain extent. You had to be rocked to a certain extent. Then the change.
My previous breakups were not fun either. Like both of those sucked. I mean, one of them, I was the one breaking up with him. The other one, her dad broke up with her for me because of crazy reasons. But then this one was different where I was just like, it hurt so bad. I was like, I think it was enough hurt to where I was like, I never want to feel this way ever again. What can I do? What things can I implement to make sure that I don't feel this way again? And then it started like an entire journey of one, calling my mom every single day, calling you all the time. And then it was the first time ever I've had the introspective feeling of like, oh, I have some stuff I need to work on. And if I don't do that, I will feel this way again. And I think maybe it's getting older or seeing yourself being with someone and then that's gone. You're like, well, it's going to be a few years before I could ever have that again. So it hurts even more. So I was like, I don't want that. I want to be a good partner. I want to be a dad someday. I want these things. I need to work on stuff. But before, I didn't even think I had stuff to work on.
It sounds like
oblivious
timing to me, like of where you are in your life.
In some ways, and it's kind of like, it's sort of mysterious, but at some point there's a level of awareness that someone has that maps onto their experience in a certain way where they're able to see some pattern in a way with such clarity that they can do something and happen to have the will or motivation to actually do something and can follow through with it. Because you have to have like all those things happen at a time. I mean, there are people who live their whole lives and never become aware of a certain pattern, even though they've repeated it through their whole life.
Oh, wow.
There's certain people who can observe a pattern in others and learn from that such that they don't end up repeating that pattern that may be like intergenerational. And so I think it's kind of mysterious to know like why or when a certain person is at a place developmentally where they become aware of a certain pattern in their life where they can like actually change it, you know? But that process happens differently for different people.
Like, does everyone have to like have it be really, really hard, or can someone like watch this and be like, oh, I'm gonna learn from that and not, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it happens in that way, right? For some people, they have to like really hit a certain sort of rock bottom, maybe. And again, for certain people, it just never is something that changes, depending on what, you know, what the thing is. But even with relationships, there are people who like end up their entire life without kind of having the kind of relationship that they wanted and making like very similar mistakes throughout, you know, the different relationships.
Unfortunately, I feel like in most cases, and I don't want to generalize completely, but you got to be like rocked a little bit emotionally.
It's interesting language too. Like rock bottom language is the language that we use in AA. It's like when you hit your rock bottom and then you change. Or
I could have used a group during my breakup. You guys were my group.
I've wondered about this so often. Like, do I really need to hurt this way to learn? Like, why can't I watch someone else's hurt and learn?
Yeah.
And I don't know, like introduce me to that person who learns from someone else's hurt. But
no, we can, right? I think it just depends on what the thing
just
is.
introduce
People
me to
do.
them. That's
People
all I'm
do.
saying.
Learn through
people
somebody else's hurt
Yeah.
instead of it being hard.
I wish we could. Maybe we do. You know, I'm being dramatic. That's who I am.
Yeah. No, people.
I mean, I didn't learn from other people's mistakes. My dad made a lot of the mistakes that I made, and I did not learn from them until I was like, what? I feel like I had to, and maybe that's, I don't know, maybe I'm different, but that's what it took. The facts are, it took me having to go through it to feel that way in order for me to be like, I don't want to feel this way again. I don't want to do that. This is the type of person that I want to be.
Yeah.
So for me personally, I can agree with you, AZA, that maybe for some people they can learn from other people's. Maybe I'm not smart enough, but I didn't learn from other people's. I had to like,
or maybe you
go through it
are,
myself.
And you don't know you are learning, and you are acting in a way that because you learned from someone else's pain. So maybe there's a chance.
You had a similar experience, right? It really rocking you and then changing
Yeah, of course.
a bunch of things.
Yeah, I think taking accountability is first and foremost maybe one of the most important things you can do. And I think when that happens, you start to build awareness through that. You know, because I don't think without taking accountability of yourself, like how can you know what you need to do better or could do better?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't think we, like most people, I don't feel walk around like being consciously aware of themselves.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the powerful things about intimate relationships is that you then begin to see, they will bring you into contact with the aspects of yourself that you previously were blind to.
Yeah.
Then you kind of have to come face to face with like, oh, there might be some dissonance between who I thought I was and who I am actually, based on what life is giving me back, right? Like,
those are hard conversations to have with yourself, that people don't want to answer those questions or find the answer to those questions. And so it's easier just to keep on doing what you're doing.
Yeah, deflecting and never taking the accountability.
As you're talking about it, it's like I started listening to what I needed, really. I started listening to this pain. I listened to what I needed. I listened to what I need to be different.
For me, it started with evaluating what was important to me.
Yeah, taking accountability. Yeah, like learning what I want. But like it's so much a process of listening to what's called for from yourself and what you need. And so like that's what it sounds like you were doing.
Yeah, that is what I've been doing. AZA, you mentioned the mystery of why. My previous relationship, I always say it had to be her. For whatever reason, my change and me taking the steps I needed to take as a man, as a partner, you know, I think has actually affected every part of my life as a brother, as a son. It had to be her to like, for me to understand the lesson I needed to learn. It couldn't have been anybody else for whatever reason.
Like you had to care enough for it to make you want to
It's not even that. I've cared.
I know. I was wondering what is.
It's not even about caring enough.
It had to be her.
Yeah,
I wonder,
why did it have to be her?
You know, I don't have the answer to that. AZA mentioned a partner can bring something out of you.
or take something out of you.
Yeah, exactly. Or took something out of me, you know, and I probably more took something out of me. I feel like what I've done for me, it got me back into faith. It helped me rebuild the community of people I was around. It's helped me be more in tune with my emotions, which I've neglected, suppressed for 20 plus years. I hadn't cried in 20 years. I compartmentalized everything and just kept moving forward. Didn't matter. Doesn't matter. I don't care. I don't feel. And so I think vulnerability was maybe one of the biggest positives or bonuses that I've gained, because I was never vulnerable before.
Also, through this process, you did keep opening yourself up and keep getting hurt.
100%. I kept opening myself up, kept getting hurt.
You told me this. You're like, just win today. That's what you told me.
I just try and win my day, or I try and win my week. If I can have like 4 out of 7 good days, that's a win. I'm building better habits for my future.
Yeah.
Growth isn't about perfection, it's about consistency. So if I can build consistency, then it will show up in my life eventually. I'm at so much peace now. But yeah, the hard part is when you become vulnerable and you still get rejected. Like the one thing, like
You show yourself, and they say, nah.
no, thank you.
That's what's inside you? Nah, that hurts. There's 2 things I almost want to pause and recognize, and just like, what a blessing this human is for you, not was.
100%.
And then also, like, this is something that I'm just concerned about generally, is that when we have these significant interactions with each other, we don't pause to learn or to just understand and take, you're talking about taking responsibility, but like, take responsibility or just have consideration for the next connection we're going to make. I just see it all the time, like the people traumatizing each other, and then more and more and more, because each time that process is not paused and there isn't some reconsideration, I'm just like concerned that we're hurting each other a lot by not pausing at these moments like you are.
Like just hopping into another relationship and making the same, just having
Could
it
be
go the
that.
same way.
Could be that. Could be a lot of different things. And it's like every encounter that we have with each other, like casual to marriage, can be equally harmful or helpful.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that we do without consideration for the soul that we're interacting with.
You know what's really interesting is the cost of that blessing. You want what you want. Like I did not want the relationship to work out, but it didn't work out. And I gained so much from it, but I lost something. It cost me something.
What did it cost you?
It cost me somebody that I saw a future with.
But it saved you maybe years of pain down the road.
Listen, it wouldn't have worked out anyways, just because I wasn't where I needed to be.
It's interesting because the cost is something imaginary.
It's imaginary. The cost is imaginary.
The cost is imaginary. The fantasy, I'm just like, you could say, I struggle with this, is like, because the fantasy could be like, I think this thing that is really cool for me, really cool for you, really cool for us. I think you could be this. I think I could be this. We kind of do this for our friends, our close friends, our family. We're like, I think the best for you. I think, hopefully, loving relationship, right? And the possibility that this could be. And then in relationships, what's really tough is there's this tension there where it's like you're not accepting them, they're not accepting you for who you are. How do you do that at the same time that you also say you could be this or we could be this? And can you do that at the same time?
Well, that hurt for me because I screwed up, and for the first time in my life, took accountability. I was like, you're right, I screwed up. And then I came up with like an entire game plan to earn her trust back, to get her back. I was like, I'm going to do therapy. Never done that. I'm going to take accountability. I got things I got to work on. I'm going to do that. I opened up to my sisters, to my mom, to my friends. And I was doing all these things, but I was still felt guilt. And then also was receiving a lot of like shame from her about what I did. And then at a certain point, I was just like, it's not for you. All of these changes are for me.
Yeah.
And so in that sense, they're like, it is a blessing, but it's super crummy that I had to like, one, hurt someone. I don't want to hurt anyone like that again. I had to want to like it. If without the hope of maybe getting her back, I would have been like, all right, go back and do the same thing over again to somebody else. But all of the changes came from like wanting to get her back, for that thing to work out.
It took you to a certain place, and then the hope needed to be killed, and then it became for yourself, and hopefully,
yeah, it was for her, and then at one point it was for me, and it ended up being the best thing I've ever experienced in my life. It was such a blessing. When me and my ex started dating, I had these habits that I had for 4 years of how I interacted with girls and how I received love from after finding out it was from, what did you say the other day? The detachment mothers thing.
Yeah.
But like finding that out, like that's how I received love. I was like, oh, talking to girls, whether I hooked up with them or not, like the attention from girls was a good feeling. So cut to, I'm in a relationship now, and I didn't physically cheat on her, but I emotionally did by receiving, attention and talking to other girls. And we'd be fine for like a week, and then she'd be like,
back.
I looked at the stuff that because she like screenshot all of them and airdropped them to herself and woke me up at 4 a.m. and was like, you're a piece of butt. And I had PTSD about it for weeks, bro. I'd wake up in my sleep and be like, oh my God.
But something about like self-inflicting wounds is like addicting almost, right? Like scabs. Why do people peel scabs off? Goes back, peeled off again. It's the same thing. She's like opening up the phone, seeing what you did.
Yeah.
Well, I think
you guys heal a little bit, and she goes back and does it again.
Well, I think there's also like if someone feels as though their trust has been broken, or they feel as though things aren't safe, but they also care about you, then when they feel themselves opening up and feeling vulnerable, it's like, okay, no, I need to remind myself like why I should be angry. So they go back to it to be like, okay, no, I need to be angry. I think that's also, something challenging to deal with, and that has to be part of the healing of the relationship if it's going to move forward. Also involves like how do they deal with their anger and how do they deal with their lack of trust now, and it has to happen on both sides for the relationship to be able to progress
on both sides. And actually, like these points can be points of strengthening of relationship as well.
I thought that's what was going to happen.
It can.
I literally, You wish. I thought it was going to happen. I was like, not only if we're going to have great, like, because I was like, in my mind, I was like, go through my phone. I want my next relationship, I don't want it to be even a question. You go through my phone, go through whatever you want. I will have nothing to hide. I'll have nothing that I wouldn't be comfortable with you seeing. And I thought we'd get to that point where it was going to be even better than before because there's total transparency and trust and all these things. And my next one will have that. But I definitely thought that was going to happen with the last one.
There's also the implication there, because there are a couple of things that we said. So like under the conditions of the relationship that y'all agreed to, there is an exclusivity to it. There is a certain way in which you communicate. This is how we trust each other. But a lot of that was implicit and not made explicit. So to frame it that way as well is what's going on. Because, we're saying like, oh, emotionally cheating is way worse than physically cheating. It's like, I don't know if that is the frame, or to just say like, we had these conditions to where we would feel secure, because everyone has different conditions, and that's fair, and to where we would feel trust. And there was a breach in that trust, experienced or otherwise. And the conversation wasn't, what do you need for this trust to be repaired, or what does it need to look like? What is the thing? Where are you hurt? How do we the conversation often doesn't go like that. Often it's like, I left the cup on the table. I'm not going to leave the cup on the table anymore. But it's not as simple as that.
How do you not pull your bad habits into something new, without having worked on them?
Yeah. So it's like that willingness to be wrong or open, or to listen.
Yeah, and I think, we all are going into relationships with trauma from childhood.
Would you say we're always going into relationships with trauma?
Yeah. Like there's throughout childhood. Yeah, throughout childhood, and just development, there's different experiences that have been painful or challenging, even just from the standpoint of like just being a baby and being hungry and not being able to communicate exactly what you need while you wait for someone to figure out like what your needs are, right? Like, and so how that then becomes active when we're engaged with another person in an intimate way, I think, again, begins to reflect and bring all these things in. And I think when you have a certain pattern that you've kind of acquired through relationships, it also kind of takes a relationship to break that pattern.
Well, maybe that's what I mean by habit. Maybe it's patterns. Maybe it's traumas that you bring into a new relationship, or from one relationship to the next relationship, and you haven't spent the time to know you need to work on those things.
Yeah. Can I ask? I'm now curious. Like you said, self-destructive habit. I see that cheeky smile.
Yeah.
You know what I'm gonna ask is like, do you have one that comes to mind for you?
What is considered one?
It's a different definition for both of us. I can tell you one of mine that showed up in the last relationship actually showed up in all my relationships that I'm only realizing now. But I asked you first.
I think my most self-destructive habit is my ego. Meaning like it was all about me, how I felt, what I wanted. And I felt like that's self-destructive. You know, when that's like the primary focus of my life.
And that's what showed up in this last relationship?
Yeah, I think, and I think even in previous relationships.
So the habit that you're talking about, the self-destructive habit is, I am going to fulfill my pleasures and I'm going to fulfill my needs. And if it hurts you, why does it hurt you? This is who I am. Either keep rolling with me or not.
I think not even being aware of how it could affect somebody.
Ooh.
And then in my previous relationship, when that showed up, that was the match for me.
Yeah.
Was I saw how much it affected someone I truly loved. Yeah. And I was like, I don't ever want that to happen again. I've been in a relationship where I breached trust, made a mistake.
Did you know that you were breaching the trust at that point? Because you talked about like being aware of it versus not, and then later. So I'm just curious, like,
no.
So this thing happened early in the relationship, and
early 6 weeks or so. It was at the infancy of our relationship, and there were already problems going on.
Oh,
so I was kind of had a foot out the door, honestly, mentally.
Yeah.
So it was a reckless decision, but I didn't think.
You didn't think you were going to fall in love with her a year later?
No.
So you're one person then, and you're another person at the end.
So what ended up happening?
So basically, you know, in this relationship, I truly had like graduated to a different level of loving somebody. And I had made this mistake. And unfortunately, the day she found it was the day it happened for her.
Oh.
The day she found the mistake, the day...
It actually was the
breach
version
of
that
trust.
you were then. The day that she found out what the previous version did. Actually, that day, the current version of yourself did it. Whatever the breach in trust was.
For her. And, you know, meanwhile, I'm just like, what do you mean? Months ago, I'm like, I love you. You know what I mean? I had to like understand that. And that was like a hard lesson. Like, damn, like...
Yeah.
And it's so conflicting because I'm like, I'm literally not that.
Yeah.
But that's what you see me as.
Yeah.
And it's fair. It's completely fair, you know, that she saw me that way. And like, you know, it doesn't matter how much I'm fighting to love her or show her, like I breached her trust. And, you know, that caused me to change because I saw how much I hurt her. And at that point, if we were in a relationship, that's the last person on earth I wanted to hurt.
Yeah.
And so it was so profound for me. Like it has such a huge effect on me that I made a promise to myself, never again.
Yeah.
But don't you think at one point, I mean, I did this, I know personally, at a certain point, you're trying so hard to get them back and it's getting thrown back into your face where like I didn't have any power.
Well,
like I was putting my power in like getting the acceptance back.
but that implication, like I'm trying so hard. Actually, like I almost want to pause there. And if she were here, I'd ask like, what did she need? Because she was hurting. Is maybe the orientation rather than like, oh, let me fight for this back. It's like, shoot, what do you need? And that's what I'm curious about right there.
What do you need as in like to move forward?
Yeah. What did she need in general when she was hurt? Because like
She wanted you to feel the pain that she felt.
When it initially happened, it's like shock and it's like, how could you do this? Like, if you love someone, you don't do this. And like, that's just not true. Like I can make a mistake and I can still love you. Sometimes you can base a fantasy of love in your head of how it's supposed to be.
Mm.
You know, like supposed to be perfect.
Yeah.
Like people don't lie or people don't, you know, make mistakes and hurt other people if that's true love.
Yeah.
You know, all I wanted to do was learn why I did these things, why I made these mistakes, and grow from them. In parallel, I was doing everything I could to show her how much I loved her.
Yeah.
That something that you found 10, 11 months ago is not the version who I am now, and certainly the version I'm growing into becoming.
Why is it so hard to let go when you know it's the right thing like that? Why is it so hard to let go?
I mean, for me, in my first marriage, it was about my ego. I didn't want to be the person that like failed at something, you know, especially something that is really important to me, which is family, right? And so a lot of the time that was spent after it was clear that it wasn't something that really should go on was not wanting to fail at it. And I think that was really more of an ego thing than anything else.
And I feel that, like, even though I knew that this person was in my life for a reason and a lesson and like just a season, it was still so hard to let go. And I think that's exactly what it was. From like a, you know, psychiatrist point of view, if two people are in like a particular state, at what point do you just say like you should separate? I feel like usually it's like one person trying, the other one gave up, or this person trying. Like at what point, as a doctor, you're like, you guys should just hang it up?
I don't think there is a fixed point to where you should not try to do this anymore. But maybe like it should be tiered in a way that like the first thing should be that both of y'all want it to work out. And then there's just, after that, it's like many different things to think about. Like, can we see each other's perspectives? Are there things that we can take shared responsibility for? It's like so rarely just one person's fault. And
is it ever one person's fault? Because I generally, not that like the person who caused the offense should ever play victim, but it takes two in a relationship, no?
If you find yourself thinking that it's totally their fault, oh man, but you know, there are situations, you know, abusive situations, which are common, so common. So like outside of that context, if it's just a repeated thing where it's, or even a singular thing where it's entirely someone else's fault and not yours, you're just really not going to benefit from seeing that actually it takes two to tango. So yeah, I mean, the only time I can imagine it's one person's fault entirely is if it is in an abusive situation.
The problem is that if you're the victim, or let's say you're the one who's been offended, it's natural to place all the blame on the other person.
There's something righteous about it.
Yeah.
In terms of like how it feels as well. And there's some protection about it. Like it feels so good to be angry. Anger is so protective. It feels like it fills you. You don't feel the pain really. It motivates you. It gets you moving. And when you find out like what kind of hurt that anger is coming from, and like you don't feel the anger as much, that's debilitating. If there's something that like you could even believe like 1% of the thing that you could feel shame about, if someone brings it up or throws it at you, it's hard not to be like, yeah, even if you say I don't feel that at all, you feel a little bit.
I mean, imagine if they tell you that was their goal.
Did that happen?
She told you it was her goal to make you feel bad, to make you feel shame. Ouch.
For months. And I would keep getting it. Well, too little, too late. You're doing this now. I'm like, that's all I have.
Yeah.
So what
is right now.
At what point did you say like, for me, I got to say no?
I think finally it reached a point. I come from a background where I've had to learn that I'm competitive in every way. And I like to win. So, including relationships. So I think
winning in a relationship, what does that even mean?
Yeah, like I felt like I could win, I could get her back. I maybe value things in wins and losses. So finally I was able to let go and realize I actually did win by losing her. And when I finally had that realization, I was able to completely let her go.
And what'd you say?
I was essentially in a way saying, you can't be in my life anymore. Like I'll always be a part of me that loves you. And like, I'm completely okay with that. I have closure with that, and I want you to be happy, but it can't be with me because I have to
Meaning
actually
like we can't check in on each other or text each other.
I can't hear from you, can't talk to you, nothing.
See ya.
Yeah,
For
nothing.
you.
For me. Yeah, and I don't know if that's a forever thing, but it's a forever thing, but it's certainly
Forever for now.
forever for now. Exactly. Because I need to heal from this, and this is like delaying me.
Well, you had a similar experience recently, no? Where you were like, "Pfft,
Yeah, actually, like I'm grateful to her in a way that she killed all my hope. Yeah, gotta cut all the presents out of my life.
It's actually powerful, though.
Yeah, there's some part of me that I'm like, man, you know, maybe it wasn't in the nicest way, or maybe I just didn't. Maybe I was experiencing it in a way too. But I'm like, thanks for looking out for me by killing all the hope. And now I'll just remove the presents out of my life. And this has been a pretty hurtful period in a way. Also, probably one of my favorite periods of my life because I'm learning so much.
Yeah.
that's how I feel with mine. It was the lowest, most miserable I've ever felt. And I look now, it's like the best thing that happened to me with all the stuff that you've gone through and the things you're doing because of it, or not even because of it, but that stemmed it, are all really, really great things.
Well, I have a question for you both. Like, did I deserve it?
That was her response to whatever degree of pain she felt, right?
Yeah.
And how long it lasted for her. And without more information, like I don't know how much she wanted to move past it, you know, and like how long did she feel like she needed to punish you for before allowing you back into a certain space, or if she ever was gonna do that, you know? And so I think both people have to want to actually have this be something that is a stepping stone to further intimacy and grow.
Yeah.
And I think it is challenging to do that when you're on the hurt side of it. And there's like just a period of time that has to pass for someone to work through that pain before they're willing to go back in. How long that is also kind of depends on how long you're willing to take that too. Because in some ways, it's also not fair to you when you are trying to work on something to have things continuously thrown back in your face. So there has to be reciprocal effort to meet you where you currently are as we acknowledge what did happen and that there's trust that's being rebuilt, you know?
Yeah, that's why I never blamed her for it.
Yeah. So two things. One, the AZA's thing is, one thing that he said to me is like, sometimes it's what we need to do is observe energetic cycles and know like when they have now colored themselves a certain way and when they need to be broken apart and need to renew and then rejoin, and how energetic cycles then can be punished that way. I thought that was a really interesting way of looking at it. But then also when you ask like, did I deserve it? And now you're saying, I know I didn't deserve it. It's funny because as you asked, I was like, I wonder if he thinks that he deserves it. Is that what he's asking? Does he want us to say no? Because for me, immediately I'm like, no, why would you deserve to have shame thrown onto you, to be hurt by someone?
Is it an eye for an eye? I make a mistake, so in turn, I'm going to punish you because of that mistake?
And then my thought was, does he believe that?
I think I did. I think there was maybe a small moment or a short window of time where both sides wanted it to work, but the other side, not my side, needed to like catch up to moving past the offense instead of reliving it, rethinking it.
Yeah.
And some people can't do it.
Or dealing with the pain of, which is like, you know, regardless of like sort of what your intent was or the timing of it for her when she received it, it had a certain impact. And there's some kind of anger that comes with that. And it's like, okay, well, I'm going to punish you, basically. Like, you can't just hurt me in this way.
Oh, that's an interesting way of putting it. Yeah.
Well, and I don't know, right? I'm just putting myself in the situations I've been with couples and the things I hear from the other side, and I'm just projecting. So I don't actually know what, but I could imagine that that's like part of where that was coming from. It's kind of going back to that other example where it's like, as you feel yourself becoming vulnerable again, you're also like, okay, the last time I was like this, I got kind of surprised with some information and it really hurt.
You
so
hurt,
like,
exactly.
all right, I don't know if I can trust this. Let me remind myself about why I'm supposed to be angry. And then obviously once they're angry again, then that comes with a whole psyche and set of emotions that now like they're really enacting it. Even if maybe the original intent wasn't to like get angry and throw it back in your face. It was more like a protective thing that then once you're in it causes you to act in a certain way. And it's a very interesting cycle of triggers, right? Because in you being super nice and seeking to gain her trust back or gain that intimate space back,
It's almost invalidating.
you're causing her then to start maybe feeling that thing, but now that's kind of scary in a way. So then she's like afraid and now is going to act out in a certain way as a protective mechanism. But now that sort of is difficult for you because you're actually trying, and it just creates this vicious cycle.
Especially because I genuinely think the fear of it happening again outweighs wanting it to work again.
It can, yeah, it can.
And I think that's what happened. I mean, if I had to guess, I remember she mentioned something about if this were to happen again, I don't know how I'd recover. And that fear can outweigh maybe the love of a relationship.
Saying it like that almost feels life-threatening.
I think in relationships that are going to be long-term and that work well, having enough common set of values and sort of structures that you believe in is really helpful. But there also has to be room to acknowledge that this person is going to grow and change in ways that are unpredictable. And I think finding that balance and being able to negotiate that as a couple is it also takes a lot of self-awareness to do that.
And requires a constant negotiation process.
Yeah. And if they're willing to, and I mean, that takes also a special person. And I think the maturity part of it comes with having that be earlier on in the relationship versus something that has to be kind of discovered after there's already
5 months.
Yeah, already an investment in a certain way. Because then I think there's also now sort of a question of like everything that led up to that point. Like, how much can I really rely on how I feel? Because exactly. And it could absolutely be real, right? But it raises that question. And so like, for me, for example, in my second marriage, there's a lot of conversation up front about, hey, these are the things that happened the first time. This is how I contributed to it. This is how they contributed to it. These are the patterns that I probably am going to bring into this from, what's happened in my past experiences. And so there's a level of understanding of like what we're both bringing to the table and how we can help each other with those things,
Just being totally transparent with it.
Yeah.
At the beginning.
That takes a lot of bravery.
At the beginning.
It does.
beginning.
No, it doesn't, and it doesn't have to be all the way at the beginning, right? And I think there's a level of like maybe a graded way in which you like give someone information. I think it's always better for you to control the information and provide context if needed or whatever. But I think when you are the person that creates that space for vulnerability, there's more room to work with than if that person has to discover something through like what feels like a breach of trust.
I also like the suggestion that it's like Judah was like, or Jeremiah is asking like, so how do I change this? And AZA has framed it to like, it kind of needs to be a how do we carry this together?
If it's something that is going to happen within the context of a relationship.
If you
right?
feel like
there were things, for instance, from like my first marriage that I felt like I had moved past and didn't show up in my second marriage until after we were married. Then certain things started to kind of get triggered from my first marriage. And so then it's like, okay, we have to talk about the fact that when certain things happen, it makes me feel a certain way. And it has nothing to do with you or whatever is happening. It's just a trigger from like a memory of something, right? But I think in the context of your next relationship, saying, hey, like, this is, kind of how I've been, like, this is how I grew up. This is why I'm like this way. Like, this is what I'm looking for now. And talking with them about like what they're looking for and how they, can have a relationship with you where there's trust. I think the more open you are upfront about who you are and know what you want, the more likely it is for you to find someone that can actually meet that, right? And sometimes it's surprising what needs people can meet or what relationship structures can work for someone if they have some agency in choosing kind of what things to work with. Sometimes people also are exposed to like toxic forms of love. And so when they grow older, they can't feel loved unless there's some kind of tension. And so then there becomes like subconsciously or unconsciously, they want to create some kind of tension so that they can see you angry or something, because in the past, like someone being angry about something was how they showed them that they love them. So
That's proof.
it's like if you're not angry or you're not very emotionally engaged in a very intense way, then you don't care. So I need to do something to elicit that from you, so I know that you care. You know, so it can happen in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, like fiery passion, like because you're yelling, you care a whole lot. That's
high emotion. In some way, you know, that captures that as well. As like high emotion can be misconstrued for love.
That's interesting. Because I've seen that, like in my ex, I bought 2 different books. I bought the same book for us to read, and this is again one of me, like she had ADHD and didn't like reading. I was like, you'll learn to like reading. So I bought us not my sister Taylor said she's read it in her relationship. She has probably one of the healthiest ones I've ever seen in my life.
Nonviolent communication.
Communication.
Everyone should read nonviolent communication. I read it after my relationship, and I was like, oh my God, I'm a violent communicator.
Yeah.
I'm a violent communicator. And that's
in what sense? Like what context?
Using like, oh my gosh, in so many senses.
Well, I'm just saying for like
giving them an example.
Yeah, like what does a violent communicator look like?
A violent communicator.
Raising your voice, not listening.
I mean, you know, those are parts of it, but it wasn't even that. It's like
because violent communicator sounds like verbally abusive to me.
I didn't realize how I do this with, you know, my friends and everyone in my life, but then in intimate relationships, I regress to this form who's scared to say what I feel and scared to express my needs, for example. So then what ends up happening is I use language that can blame. I use language that can be talking about the person, you. I can use language that doesn't say, hey, I'm feeling scared and what I need is space. And as simple as that, it can be like asking someone, because how much of you were doing this too. I don't know, you've probably done this. Is like how much of us is like assuming how they feel or think and orienting around that or what they need, instead of just asking like, hey, there's this thing I'm worried about. How are you experiencing it? How are you feeling about it? Or like, what can I do? Or like, what do you need? And like, it's just so simple of just being open about, I feel this way and this is the thing I need. How do you feel? It's like, it feels as you go into it. I mean, it's like there's a reason why it's a whole book, but
I would always assume the reason why something was happening, or I would even assume to know what I think they needed, you know, versus just talking to them, versus just like, hey, versus just asking,
hey, I'm worried because you did this thing and I think that it means this. Can I ask why not? Why wouldn't that be received well?
I think there's some fear in kind of coming up against that existential thing about like being isolated. For me to ask you, I have to like inherently admit that I don't know what's happening for you. Right. And so I think that, which always comes with a degree of risk, because whatever I feel like is happening here could actually not be happening here. Right. And I have to have some level of belief in that. And I think it just, when we have to ask someone about how they feel, or when we have to kind of like admit that we don't really have this like omnipotent access to the other person, it's kind of scary because it puts us up against that existential thing of like, there's always this hidden element of someone that we can't really know, and vice versa, right?
Yeah, and under that, there's this really belief. You can tell me I'm wrong, but under that is this belief that my existence is basically like conditional. My existence with other people is conditional. There is always a risk that people are going to leave me, and that's if they discover the real me. So there is like a certain condition that I need to meet so that I'm not alone. And there's a degree of that belief with each relationship. And it also is on a scale with the stakes in the relationship. This is love. This is my love. I'm not going to risk that. I'm not going to risk losing my love. I mean, even in that book that we just referenced, the nonviolent communication, it's like you're responsible for your own emotions. So when you open up this vulnerability and there's an expectation for someone to maybe be tender with that, that expectation is a bit counter to the you're responsible for your own emotions. But I almost want to challenge that a little bit. I don't know. There's this thing is like, yeah, we can live in a society where we all say we're responsible for our own emotions, and that definitely like individuates us. And then like, what would it look like if we were a society where we also were responsible for each other's emotions? That's the one thing that we're responsible for our own and each other's.
That's part of what we're looking for from a relationship, right? Part of what we're looking for in an intimate relationship is having someone that is going to share in that responsibility, right? Like when I'm having a sad day, I want someone that I can share that with, and they can receive that, and we can, talk through that together or work through that together. And so I think for a relationship to work and have long-term sustainability and commitment, both people have to be willing to enter that space. If one person is being vulnerable and the other person can't sort of reciprocate that or create a space for that, then that can start to become really harmful for the person who's always the one being vulnerable.
Okay, how do you open up vulnerably to someone and be okay with the fact that they are not going to reciprocate and self-love or self-protect? But it's like, if you protect against that risk at the same time that you're doing it, is that even possible? Is it like an oxymoron in and of itself?
To protect yourself against the risk?
To be able, to protect and also be vulnerable?
No, well, I don't know the answer to that, but this conversation leads me to believe I've actually never been truly vulnerable in any of my relationships.
Showing them 100%.
Correct.
I don't think
And
I protected myself.
there are degrees of vulnerability.
There are degrees of vulnerability.
Yeah,
There
it's
are
not like
degrees of vulnerability.
you
Yeah.
don't open the gates all
And
the
I think
way.
the deeper you can go, right, then there's a lot of like beautiful spaces you can explore and can experience together, and it can be as deep as you're willing to be vulnerable. But it's like the deeper you go, then the risk is higher. The amount that
depth
you
at which you can love is the
pain
depth
you
at
can
which
feel.
you can feel pain.
Yeah.
Does the risk grow if you're able to get that far with someone? Or just
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the intensity of pain that you can feel kind of grows, but maybe as you go further, like there's more and more trust that's being built. If that trust is broken, the risk of damage feels like it would be much more because you had so much trust, right? So in that context, that's why I say the risk kind of grows.
You're opening up so much. You're like putting all your eggs in this one basket, really opening up. And if that were to be shattered, then yeah, you're going to be hurt. The more you love, the more you could be hurt. And that is a risk. But that's also a risk that we're all willing to take.
I think that this is psychiatry's role, but not, let's not even say psychiatry. This is like the emotional, let's say, processing is actually just like defining and like understanding what it is. We went from good and bad to now it's like, well, this is the thing that I'm just like scared to show someone because I think it'll lead to them leaving me or to me being alone.
Yeah, not being accepted for it.
Not being accepted for. It's a way different thing to frame.
I think intimacy is scary for me, and even just like opening up and like starting to date someone is scary just because in my mind I have to have everything together to be with someone.
Oh.
Rather than meeting someone and then believing and trusting in who I can be and who I am and seeing that I'm working towards something and see enough in me like I'll go on this ride with you. I'll go on that journey with you. I have this thing in my brain where I'm like, nah, I gotta become this, and then I do think energy is a thing when what you're looking for you will attract, but like I have to get to this point to attract the person that I want to be with. I need to get to this status. I need to get to this spiritual place. I need to be at this level to meet someone that's also at that level. Rather than I could meet someone right now that could be my ride or die. That's like, yo, thick or thin, I'm with you. But in my head, I'm like, it's not feasible, or it's like, I don't know, insecurities of it, I guess.
What's the distance between that version of yourself and now?
They're not far off. Stability, more like career stability.
I think it's a natural thing to feel.
Yeah, it's not an unnatural thing to feel.
Right. Especially being a man, or like social construct of what it is to be a man is provider, stable. And if that feels in flux, that's going to affect how you feel about being in a relationship potentially. And that's kind of what you're saying.
Yeah, but then in my mind, I'm like, I'm an artist.
Correct.
Every artist I know, their whole life is that.
Yeah.
So is it going to be something I'm always searching for? Because being an artist, whether you're a musician, painter, whatever, like It's not always the most stable career. Sometimes you go from this to that, and with acting, you're constantly getting fired every 3 months, going to look for new things. So I'll never have that.
Well, I think there
In a
needs to be
way.
a distinction between being stable and having money. Because like you're saying, like
You're right.
you're an artist, I'll always have that. Well, what happens if you have money? Will you always have that? Is money going to create the stability for you, is what I'm asking. Because if you blow up as an actor, if you have money now.
Maybe. I think more in the sense, less even about the money, about like stability with like, I'm constantly doing things that I really love to do as well. Like right now I'm trying. But if I'm like, take the money aspect out of it, I can like make a living, not making that much money, but I am constantly diving into things that I love doing rather than chasing that thing that I love doing. I think I'll have stability. I think the money aspect is definitely a part of it. You have to make a living and, provide and everything. But I think just for you guys know what you want to do and you're doing it and you got to do it every day. I have something I really want to do. I love doing it, but I don't get to do it every day.
It's funny. Actually, it makes sense, but I'm not thinking about stability. I'm thinking about feeling like you are standing on your, I guess I'm defining stability in a different way, on your own two legs. And so that you can be there when someone else is standing on their two legs next to you. And so how do you do it for yourself? And maybe you're saying like, I'm not loving myself, so I can't love someone else. I think about that for myself. Like, what are the things on a daily basis that I do to say I love myself? I can't just say I love myself. It's a feeling. I got to actually like prove it to myself in relationship to myself. And then I can be in relation to someone else.
I probably have a very hard time loving myself. That's like definitely one of the things I deal with, which I'm trying to, get better at. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for coming out again. It was so fun.
Yeah, that was a blast.
Hopefully you guys had a good experience.
Appreciate y'all.
And hopefully
Yeah,
you guys take
appreciate
away
you
some of the
having us.
stuff that
Yeah.
we talked about. Again, if you want to watch the full episode, click the link in the bio and you'll get the menu and the full array of 5 stars that we have in the playlist and everything, as well as the full episode. So thanks for tuning in and we'll see you next time.